and turn this over to Rose Lee, for our official welcome to September Not Church.
And am I on? Yes. Good morning and happy Sunday. And just know that happiness is here and now. I'm so glad that you're here joining us for Not Church. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome you to Not Church. Now, my experience with Not Church is kind of less than 2 years old, when I recently moved from Thailand, where I was teaching for 8 years, to Baja, and someone invited me to a Not Church. Now, I wasn't sure what to expect. I'd seen a lot of temples in Thailand, and I wasn't sure what a Not Church would be. What I found was the most caring, welcoming community that I had ever experienced. I knew after I had heard the welcome that this would become a new spiritual safe home for me. And I hope that all of you will find that in Not Church. Those of you who were founding members, I want to say thank you to you. Those of you who have been with Not Church as regulars for a long time, thank you. Thank you all for welcoming me into the group. And with that, I would also like to extend the unbridled welcome to those visitors, those new to Not Church. Please know, whether you have religious beliefs, past background, or you have none at all, that you are always welcome, and you are all welcome. And what I found was that this group does not just say welcome, they really mean it. You will find in this group your best friends. I did. And I just can't tell you what that all-inclusive welcome meant to me. It meant you're accepted no matter who you are, where you are on your journey in life. You are welcome. We are a community. We gather together to explore, to learn, to inspire and be inspired, and to continue this journey together as we strive to be better each and every day. So welcome all, and with deep gratitude, I say thank you to all. And as we get ready for our meditation, I'd like you to do this. I'd like you to put your past in one hand, the future in the other hand. Bring them together in the now. Touch your heart and stay present for the meditation. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Rose, so much. Well, meditation is kind of the perfect thing for our topic today of choices and challenges. Have any of you ever had a moment when you said something that you wish you hadn't, or you wish you'd thought of something you wanted to say? We've all had moments where we get caught like a deer in headlights and respond in a less than optimum way, shall we say. So meditation creates a space, a gap between our thoughts that expands as we practice. That space helps us let go of habitual thinking and misperceptions. It helps us see reality more clearly. And it expands the space between stimulus and response. It helps us stay present instead of getting tangled up in the past, in regrets, or worry about the future. It helps us stay calm and balanced in the face of all of life's challenges. And it helps us make more productive and effective choices. So we're going to practice for a few moments. We're going to practice with the most simple meditation of following our breath and staying aware of the space around us. Because when we pay attention to our breath and space, it helps draw our attention down from the little hamster wheel in our head that never seems to want to stop. So please get comfortable in your seat and find a position that you can stay in without moving for just a couple minutes. And we'll take a couple deep breaths just to focus our attention and draw it down from our mind. So breathe in, pull the energy all the way up from the bottom of your toes, up through the top of your head, and release it. And breathe in again, and release. Pick one spot where you feel your breath most strongly. It could be the tip of your nose, where you feel warm air coming in, cool air coming in, warm air going out. It could be the rise and fall of your chest. It could be the back of your throat. Wherever it works for you, wherever you notice your breath, focus on that. And you're just going to watch your breath come in and go out. Don't try to control it, and don't try to control your thoughts. It's natural to have thoughts in meditation, despite what some people think. Thoughts come and go automatically, just like our breath, as long as we let them go. We're looking to notice and expand that space between our thoughts, seemingly empty, but rich and full of potential. You don't have to do anything but watch as you let your awareness ride on the calming waves of your breath. When you notice you've been thinking, simply return your attention to your breath and space, the space inside and all around you. Just be still and know you're breathing in and out. I'll sound a bell when it's time to stop. Okay. With that, I turn it over to Tom.
Hello, everyone. I'm just sitting here thinking everyone's so deeply relaxed and centered now. And I tend to be an energetic speaker. And so now I am going to assault your ears with energy. So I apologize for the juxtaposition in energy. but good morning. And I too can't wait to hear Freeman talk. Freeman's just one of my favorite human beings on the planet. So, but before that, I just want to mention something that Not Church is part of a larger entity called Tranquilo. Now, that could be a little confusing because Not Church was first, and then out of Not Church, Tranquilo was born. So I understand the confusion, but Tranquilo, of course, presents Not Church once a month. We also have 4 to 5 small groups that meet weekly that deal with meditation, spiritual book studies, and the Enneagram. And we present seminars and workshops. And that's what I'm here to talk about, is a seminar or a workshop that was designed specifically for Tranquilo around relationships. So a long time ago, a long time ago, Aristotle said, man is a social animal. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that that's true. You just look around. After all, each of us does not live in a cave. We live out in society. And one of the main tools that's woven into the fabric of being human is being related. Imagine life without being related. It would be kind of weird, and it would be lonely and probably be non-existent because it requires relationship for the human race to continue. Now, if something this big is part of being human, we're not offered any training formally in school. After all, when you were in high school, no one offered you remedial relating 101 or intermediate relationship. The best you could do in training on relationship was go to Career Tracks, do a $39 seminar on how to get along with your boss. That's it. That's all you can get. All of our training in being related is modeled, starting with our family, expanding to our friends, our teachers. It was all modeling. It's helter-skelter type of training. And I have to say, overall, the human race has done pretty well with the relationship because, after all, we're still here. Now, when we were thinking, the Tranquilo leadership team was thinking about what do we want to offer this community in the future, we suggested several things and they kind of landed with a thud. There was no interest. And then someone said relationship and we all lit up. So Yella and I were tasked with coming up with designing a workshop on relationship. The topic is huge. So we selected a specific area of relating called friendship. Now, what's amazing is when a human being, us, we put our attention on something, it grows and develops. And as we put our attention on it and we started to make distinctions on what it means to be friends, we were just amazed at what starts to open up and the depth of what opens up and the effectiveness of what opens up. So we're going to look at, in a workshop later this month, we're going to look at being friends, friendship, through the lens of knowing someone, liking someone, and trusting them. And we have several distinctions within each one. And I will tell you what looks like it might be this way. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's another way. So a lot of that kind of was exposed. At the end of this month, on September 25th, which is a Saturday, from 10 in the morning to 11, we're going to present a seminar on relationships, specifically friendship. It's going to be on Zoom. You can attend it as a couple or as an individual. It's designed for any way that you want to show up. It's done free of cost as a service to you and our community. Now, because it's on Zoom, we have to limit it to 20 people. I apologize for that, but Yella and I, we just don't feel that we could competently and professionally work with more than that in a Zoom format. And maybe you can, but we just can't imagine it. Now, I have to tell you, we have 13 people registered for the workshop. So if you are interested in this, I would suggest that you register. And you do that by going to the website, tranquilobaja.com. That's tranquilobaja.com. You scroll down the page, you will see courses and seminars. And under courses and seminars is the relationship workshop for friendship. You click on the link and it will take you to an email, which magically will arrive in my inbox and we will register you in this workshop. I would love to see you there. I'm sure Yella agrees with me. She's very agreeable, that she would like to see you there also. So thank you. Thank you very much. Doug?
If I could just say a word before Doug speaks, I think you misspoke when you said it starts at 11 and you said you said it starts at 10 and goes to 11, but it actually goes to 1. Okay, so just in case that snagged anybody like it did me, it's 11 to 1. So it's 3 hours, not 1.
Thank you. It had 2 1s in it. I made a mistake. So thank you for correcting that. And by the way, that is some of the function of our relationship, or Yella corrects me. We'll explore that deeper also. Doug, it's all yours.
Well, you can cover a lot of relationship stuff in a really intense hour, I'm going to tell you. So good morning, everybody. Good to see you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Yella. And pay no attention to these shadows. I do my best work when I'm backlit. I'm here to introduce Freeman Michaels, who has been a participant here at Not Church for a comparatively short period of time, but he's had quite an impact during that time and continues to have. Freeman has this wonderful quality of knowing him for 5 minutes and you've known him for 20 years. He's that kind of a person. It's really easy to get to know him and to be comfortable in his company. As near as I can tell, his purpose, his calling in this world is to inspire people, which he does in many different ways. And he does every time he really speaks to somebody. And he has, when he speaks, I know him to have this direct, honest, straight from the shoulder thing going on that he just does whenever he speaks. So it's not up, it's not down, it's just coming right at you. And so it's really a pleasure to hear him speak and to speak with him, whether it's in person or on Zoom. And we welcome him here to Not Church this month. And Freeman is going to share a story with us.
Hey, Daddy. My then 4-year-old daughter called out as my wife and I frantically tried to finish preparing for her big birthday party. Does Cinderella drive a Corolla? Shit. I had seen my daughter sitting in the bay window of our living room, but it never occurred to me that our rent-a-princess would park right in front of the damn house. Clearly, with the fantasy blown, I had to just surrender. It seems she does, dear, I said, trying to mask my disappointment and frustration. What came out of her mouth next was a bit shocking. Cool, she said, as she rushed to the front door to open it for our visiting princess. Every child, from my perspective, has a thing, right? Some challenge or something unique that they have to, in this lifetime, overcome. Equally, from my experience, every child seems to come equipped with some personality or skill set to handle their particular challenge. My daughter, her thing was that she was a toe walker, which at first seemed fairly pedestrian. You can look it up on Google. Lots of kids do this toe walking. Most kids grow out of it. But after several years, 3 or 4 years of the condition seemingly getting worse and other things coming on, like some speech issues, posture issues, her pediatrician said that we really should see a neurologist. Her neurologist was an old timer. He'd seen it all before. And after a battery of tests, he diagnosed our daughter with HSP, hereditary spastic paraplegia, which is a degenerative neurological disorder that can result, like worst case scenario, it can result in people ending up in wheelchairs. Much better case scenario is basically lifelong physical and occupational therapy to address the symptoms. The problem with HSP is there's no test to determine which variation she has. The only test that they have is something called a nerve conduction test. So 8 a.m., my daughter and I arrive at the hospital, and we are greeted by a really friendly, lovely nurse who brings us into the test room, where my daughter changes into a hospital gown. Shortly after that, we're greeted by a middle-aged female doctor who introduces herself and then tells my then 8-year-old daughter, "This is going to hurt." Now, I respect her candor, but I have never in my life heard a doctor tell an 8-year-old this is going to hurt. And then she goes on to tell her that she can't give her any pain medication because it is the pain that we are trying to measure. To which my remarkable daughter exclaims, "That's okay. I'm pretty good with pain." She then goes on to explain that she's going to stick these little needles in her legs. The needles have wires attached to them through which she's going to send an electric shock. To which my daughter replies, "Interesting." Now, I can't tell you what a surreal experience it is for a father to want his little princess to experience pain. But with every yelp, I was relieved and distressed simultaneously. For 20 minutes, this shock torture went on, and my daughter is yelping. Finally, when it finishes, the doctor declares that the test is negative, meaning that her nerves are acting appropriately. And it seems that my daughter very likely has the milder version of the HSP. But before we could leave, my daughter thanked the doctor and then told her that she thought her job was really interesting. The following week, we had a follow-up with the neurologist, who told us immediately, "You're not out of the woods yet. Now we need to address the symptoms aggressively." So we put my daughter in 2 full walking casts at the same time. We started speech therapy. We started physical therapy with bands and straps. She had a procedure done and tests, always more tests. But my daughter didn't miss a beat. She happened to be in a musical theater program at the time, and she insisted that she was going to still perform in both of her casts, and she did, in fact. So about 3 years ago, my daughter was about 12. We would go annually to have checkups on her HSP with the neurologist. So we went to Kaiser, our HMO, to see him. And it turns out he had retired, and we had a new doctor, a young guy, who came in. He talked to my daughter. He looked at her history, looked at all of the tests they'd done and all of her progress, and he undiagnosed her. He said that from his experience looking at all of this, he didn't think that she had HSP. My wife and I were immediately relieved, and then a little pissed for all of the things my daughter had had to go through, followed by impressed. We were so impressed with Isabella's resilience and perspective. Thinking back on her personality, from thinking that a Corolla driving princess rather than a pumpkin carriage arriving princess was cool, to seeing this entire medical ordeal as interesting. There was something remarkable about this young lady. If you had asked my daughter when she was 4 what she wanted to be when she grew up, she would declare a princess. If you ask my daughter today at age 15 what she wants to be when she grows up, she'll tell you she's thinking about becoming a doctor. So that's my daughter with our Rent-A-Princess. And when she's 4, her 4th birthday party. And that is my daughter about a month and a half ago at my brother-in-law's wedding. You know, we talk sometimes about our children being master teachers. And I want to share a quote with you from Daryl Anka. He said, "Choose to presume that challenges are good. There's a creative pressure in challenges that helps us grow, discover life and ourselves anew." Choose to presume that challenges are good. Choose to presume that challenges are good. To me, that is such outstanding advice. It's like the old joke, take my advice, I'm not using it. I'm not saying I'm necessarily very good at this. In fact, I would say that every day, I think the biggest thing for me is to choose to presume when a challenge presents itself that it's good. But I do think that's the work. At least I would say, or I would offer that that's my work. And again, the thing about having children is they're teachers. You know, there's something in, there's the great poem by Khalil Gibran, and I don't know it by heart, but I'm sure most of you know it. It's our children are not our children, right? Their life's longing for itself, and how we're a witness to their experience, but we shouldn't impose our, you know, thoughts and opinions on them, that we should actually, in essence, follow them. And I feel really strongly about that. I actually feel really strongly about that in the context of this moment in time, right? It seems to me with young people that there's something that wants to emerge through them that, you know, that isn't necessarily in my perception. My easiest sort of examples of this is when my phone does something weird, I hand it to my daughter or my son, and they fix it instantly, right? And so the story, of course, is that they're tech natives, right? So this is their mechanism. They get it. But I think there's more to that, you know, these last 5 years, I don't know about for all of you, but there's been something in the last 5 years that's been completely unnerving for me. My perception and my story about what America was and who we were as a people has been shattered. And it has been incredibly distressing, right, for me personally. But I think the key here, and I'm coming back to the moral of the story, which is choose to presume it's good. And I look to my kids, all three of them, because I have an adult son who's 32, I have an 18-year-old, and I have my daughter who's 15, who'll be 16 at the end of this month. And I think I see in them a possibility, an emergent possibility, meaning that I don't think it's defined yet, but I think that they have the capacity to handle it. And for me, again, to allow them to be my teacher and to constantly commit to this idea, this principle that I'm choosing to embrace challenges and to allow the challenges to lead me into something better or greater is my hope for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Freeman. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, everyone, for participating. That was really inspiring story and points out very well the options that we have when faced with challenges. And we can choose to think that they may turn out to be a blessing. And it reminds me of that old story of the farmer and the son, and the farmer who loses his horse, and he calls all of his neighbors, and they go looking for the horse, and they come and they go, oh, that's terrible. Well, then the horse comes back and brings 3 other horses with it. And the neighbors all go, well, that's good. And he goes, maybe, And then the son gets on the horse and goes riding on the horse and falls down and breaks his leg. And they go, oh, that's terrible. Well, then pretty soon the military shows up looking for, guys to join up and carry around a bunch of guns. And the son can't go because he's broken his leg. Anyway, the story goes on and on and on. And none of us are going to get out of this without challenges. And how we handle those challenges and the attitude with which we approach them is what's really important across the board in life. And that was a beautiful story, Freeman, that really illustrated that perfectly. And what a wonderful, beautiful daughter you have. And actually, I have to say the fairy godmother reminded me a little bit of what Rose must have looked like when she was younger. I was thinking, what, Rose? What are you doing in there? So a wonderful, wonderful morning. I'm going to, Freeman, if you don't mind, I am going to open this up for questions. And everyone also remember that there are still a few spots left in Tom and Yella's friendship workshop coming up in a couple of weeks on the 25th of September. So I think we could probably all benefit from that instead of relying on the modeling that we have all had throughout our lives and maybe some missteps along the way. I'm sure we could all learn from that. So if anyone has any questions or thoughts or comments, any upcoming events they'd like us to know about, now is the time. You can unmute. If I knew how to unmute everybody, I would, but I can't figure that out. I'm sorry. I should know, but I don't. Nobody has any questions? Nobody has any thoughts? Nobody wants to know anything?
Yeah, I've got a question. Freeman, after that second doctor told you guys that that Isabella did not have what you thought she had, did you see the symptoms disappear?
No. So a lot of the toe walking, first of all, the decision to do the casting is a dramatic decision, but it was based on the diagnosis rather than other potential ways of approaching it, namely that it might go away, right? And it usually does. It doesn't mean that anything we did was wrong, right? We ultimately had orthodontia for her teeth, and they trimmed her tongue to help with speech. So all these things we were doing were good. It just wasn't held in this ominous diagnosis. That was the part that was a relief. And the part that really bums me out is she had a bunch of, CAT scans, MRIs, and a bunch of tests that probably weren't great for a little girl to be exposed to that much radiation. And so those are the places where I felt, frustrated. But ultimately, obviously, we're relieved, and she's, fine. I mean, she's had to go through her challenges, but her approach is remarkable. She really is a kid who, like the animal who only has a 10-second memory, because she does theater and she has poetry, and she gets up there with so much courage, and then let's say it goes wrong, and it does sometimes. She's so quick to jump back up again, or she doesn't get the part. And I wish I was more like that. I really do. I mean, it's something I think I've worked hard to say, how do I process things so that I can get back in the game? But it feels like for me, it's such a challenge. Whereas for her, her innate resilience is remarkable.
Sounds like a remarkable young woman.
Looks like she's weathered everything very well. I mean, have there been any issues in terms of, I think there's problems with our educational system as it is right now, but have there been any issues as far as being able to progress normally there?
No, academics, she's really good. She never had a challenge with academics. The biggest thing was the physical. So things that she actually moved towards, for example, dance. She'll never be a great dancer, but she loves dance and she's resilient. So she can't touch her toes because your Achilles get screwed up when you're a toe walker, right? You can't touch your toes. But all these years she's stuck with it. And we have too, because we've said, look, because one of the things in our education system, or our paradigm, as it were, was if you can't be the best at something, you don't do it, right? So, which is horrible because the dance has been such an important outlet for her, but she's never going to be a great dancer. It's not how she's physically built, but she loves it. So, there's an example, because just to point to what you were saying, there's ways in which our mentality about why someone ought to be doing it is not so great. So dance has been the great outlet for her to counterbalance. So she doesn't go to physical therapy, she goes to dance. I'll say one quick thing for this group that I think you'll all appreciate. During the test, she had started with Brian Weiss, who wrote Many Lives, Many Masters, has a visualization that I've been using every day as a meditation for probably 15 plus years. Anyhow, my daughter started using it. And just because sometimes she's anxious, has trouble going to sleep or whatever, she'll use it. She uses it to this day, but she was 6 or 7 when she started using it. So when that was all going on, her and I were practicing the breathing from the Brian Weiss visualization all throughout the torture is what I'm calling it, because it really wasn't what it was. Sending shocks in to make her yelp to say, oh, the nerves work, right? So that's kind of fun for this group, that the meditation became a critical piece of her getting through that really horrific experience.
Yeah.
Arthur,
Brian Weiss, wow.
Arthur's got a hand up.
Arthur, yeah.
Yeah, hi. This is Arthur. And first of all, fabulous story. I really enjoyed hearing about your daughter. There's some amazing generation of kids coming up here, so it's really great. And I also, you asked for announcements as well. I just wanted to mention that we have some amazing guest speakers coming up on our People Powered Planet podcast, including Rob Call, who wrote the incredible book, Bottom Up Revolution, just about how in every aspect of our society, there's a new resurgence of bottom up, both spiritually and in politically and in so many ways. And it's a really empowering book. He's on September 22nd, Wednesday. All our podcasts are Wednesdays at 10 o'clock Pacific time. This coming week, we're actually having a Q&A for people who would like to watch our film, The World is My Country, about world citizen #1 Gary Davis. And if you haven't seen it yet, or you'd like to join the Q&A, just email me. My email's right there on the screen over my picture, arthurkanagas@gmail.com. And I can send you a free link to watch the film and join our Q&A, or just go to theworldismycountry.com, our film site. So thanks for the wonderful spiritual inspiration. And I think our kids are the light leading the way. So thank you.
Thanks, Arthur. Anyone else? Thoughts or comments before we go off to, oh, Maria, hi. Unmute, please.
Hi, Freeman, thank you for that. And yes, I believe the next generations are there to keep us lit up and realize that what looks like insurmountable challenges are still nevertheless possibilities. My grandchildren are climate activists and very, very active in the arena that we all are very aware of for our futures. They're going to be speaking, or one of them is going to be speaking on Wednesday in a Zoom call. And I'd be happy to share my email in chat. And if you're interested, anyone, in hearing what they have to say, I'll send you the link. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. And if you post it in the chat, I'll include it in the thank you note that goes out. Anyone else?
It brought up something for me, if you're open to that. My oldest daughter went to school. She was born and raised in Hawaii, and the schools aren't that good in Hawaii. And she had a slight learning disability and many different diagnoses along the way of this and that. And then we ultimately moved to California, and this very astute woman, practitioner, noticed that she sprawled across the desk. And as she sprawled, what it was is that her brain hadn't chosen a right or left dominance. And so it was messing up her paperwork. Like, you look at her paper and it would be written from one side, and then all of a sudden the other side would just be like two different people. And what she said was that if she would just put her hand in her lap, and oh, surprise, all of a sudden everything just kind of worked out. I mean, she still is dyslexic, but it was just the simplest thing that someone was smart enough to see, instead of pushing her down some category of dyslexia. But I was grateful for the fact that there were special ed needs and special ed programs that she could go through that helped her ultimately.
Can I say something, Sonny, about that?
Sure.
One of the things, so my older son, my middle son, is, they call it learning different, right? So the old terminology was learning disabled, which is what we all know, our generation knows. But now with the younger kids, they're calling them learning different because of what you were just saying. There may be even a genius in it, right? So being able to, so anyhow, without going into detail, but I just love, because there's a big moment right now about language and the young people wanting to choose their pronouns and all of this, that us older folks are, and I'll include myself, I think are quick to go, oh, that's such a pain, like she, he, what? I don't understand, or whatever. And I get the frustration because I feel it, but I want to say how important it is, just like the language from learning disabled to learning different, because those learning different kids are often geniuses. So if we take away the term that sort of undermines the way they think and just recognize that it's different, all of a sudden, I don't know, there's a whole new world of possibility that opens up. So I just wanted to add that learning different is the new terminology.
And
I'm not
special ed.
Right. How about extraordinary ed? Let's do something. Yeah. So like we can all go nuts with where education is sort of, preparing kids for a world that doesn't exist anymore rather than preparing kids for possibility. But deep breath, and they are resilient and they're creative and they push the needle themselves, and there are great teachers that come along and see opportunities. I wish it was more universal, but it is happening out there. My son's school, I'll say one little thing. It's diverse by design and it's a collaborative model. So for example, algebra, the class, he's got 4 kids in his pod. They're a team and they do their homework together, turn it in together. They take the test together and then they take the test individually. But the team grade counts for a lot. And when they first started implementing this, their test scores shot up because they're taking kids not just ethnically and economically diverse, but educationally diverse. So my son had tons of algebra coming into freshman year. So he was the leader in his pod teaching the other kids. He was a better teacher than the woman up in front of the room. Not because she was a bad teacher, just because in this pod culture, they would learn from each other. So the schools like this are out there and the possibilities are out there. It's not innovating fast enough, but just this way that the test scores shot up for all these quote unquote lower income kids when they brought them in this collaborative model. It's called Largemont Charter. There's some videos about it. It's a remarkable school here in LA. So these kinds of things exist where we can see opportunities to shift the paradigm.
Well, and what you're all saying points out the danger, I would even say, of labeling.
Yes.
And labeling is just a construct. It's just an idea. It's just a thought that we make up and we start to believe. And then we believe it and it gets deeper down into us and it's not reality. It is not reality. And that pod thing is wonderful. When my daughter, who will be 39 in a month, when she was in kindergarten, they started pods. They were starting with the pods where the kids work collaboratively and work together. And it's really a wonderful way to go. There's a lot of good things going on, but good changes seem to take their time to get into the mainstream. So things are, despite all the challenges that you mentioned, Freeman, that we are facing in our world, our kids are resilient, the world is resilient, and I think they will figure it out. I'm glad I don't have to figure it out, but I have confidence that they will figure out a way to a better future. So fine, people. If no one else has anything they want to share or say, I will call this gathering to a close. I thank you one and all for inspiring us and being with us and helping to create this wonderful community of ours. Thank you. go out and enjoy this beautiful Sunday at the end of summer. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you so much.
John, are you still there?
Yes.
Are you okay? I've been worrying about you.
Oh, let me turn the,
I know there's still people here, but I was just noticing you with sunglasses and a pillow, and it made me a little concerned. Are you okay?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm just fine. I was outside walking and came in and did a
You're
resting
caught.
position. Yeah. And then I
Okay,
got
good.
a call from Hans from Sweden, so I had to leave. So
Oh, all right. Okay, Hans
All right.
is good.
he's
Everything's
good.
good.
Getting a knee replacement on Wednesday.
Oh, that's not fun. All right.
No, but he's happy about it. He wants to come back to Baja very badly. So
Well,
this is
we
one
would
of the
love to see him, and this is the precursor to his return.
exactly. So
All right.
things are looking up.
Okay, well, and I'm glad you're okay, and I'm glad he's having his knee replacement. We'll look forward to seeing him and you sooner than that.
Okay. Thank you, Nadine. Love you.
All right, love you too, sweetie. Bye-bye, everybody. I'm ending the meeting now.